Hello and welcome to the NOTstalgia podcast.
A podcast where we discuss the retelling or continuation of pop culture favorites as seen through a queer and feminist lens.
My name is Eric Lefebvre.
And my name is Jessica Tercero.
And this week, we had to had to dig through our little brains to there's a word for it, to think of something from before, completely think of something from before.
On. It's,
I'm not getting it. It's not coming to me.
Remember? No, not remember.
Cola? Receive? Recall.
That's the
Total
one. Right
recall.
There.
Oh, it was right there.
Okay, right off the bat, it bugged me that in both movies, recall, the title, the titular recall was spelled with a C.
With a K?
And in the movie, it is spelled with the company of recall is spelled with a K.
Similarly,
right off the bat, I just want to go and say that really bothered me. So, deal breaker.
How did it feel to watch another film from one of this state's former governors?
So, watching this, I was like, oh, wow. Somebody saw this movie and was like, that guy that all of the women talk about his penis in literally every scene, that's who I want to be my governor.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen this, and for some reason I thought that I had, and I know that I've always confused this movie with Demolition Man.
Okay.
And I do think that after watching both of these, Demolition Man is a much better film. However, which they're also doing Demolition Man 2, apparently. So
keep an eye on that.
Keep an eye on our pod for that episode whenever it does come out. Anyways, I would always mix these two up knowing that they're not the same movie. But I have for some reason convinced myself that I had seen this motherfucker. And I hadn't.
I'm literally in the same boat. I've seen the 3 titty scene and the belly baby scene.
The 2 weeks. That scene, the 2 weeks where he's the woman. Yeah.
Yep. I've seen both of those just, I think, from clips maybe. Because in my head I was like, oh, I've seen those scenes. I've seen this movie. But as I was watching it, I was like, wait, I actually didn't know the plot of this at all. I don't remember that. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. And I was like, oh, this is another one of those where I'm like, I didn't see this actually. I've never seen this movie.
This is the first time we've had that same experience. We were both like, oh, it's this other movie. Oh, wait.
It's usually me where I'm just like, yeah, I saw the trailer. I saw the whole thing. No. My brain. Gorgeous place. But yeah, so this is my first time seeing Total Recall, which is cool. I'm really interested in talking about this because of our love of Blade Runner. And I know we haven't done Minority Report or anything, but
Minority Report is a sequel
to Total Recall.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, it is. It's I read this on the IMDb page where Minority Report was supposed to be a sequel of this Total Recall story, which which Total Recall, if memory serves right, is also of the reason it feels similar is because it's also a Philip K. Dick.
Yeah,
short
he
story,
wrote all of these stories, and it was called "We Can Remember It for You Wholesale." Was the short story that he wrote?
A better title.
Which let's talk about it. That is such a good title. That's so funny. But also, yeah, it's because to me, it all feels very similar, and then just understanding that it's coming from base level the same storyteller, Philip K. Dick. It's it's interesting to watch different visions for the source text.
You know what might be fun?
Huh.
Which we haven't done yet on the pod, is reading the short story and then doing Minority Report as the sequel. Because our mission statement is discussing continuation and stuff, so we can keep it open, which it's if they do a movie from a video game or something and we ever felt like doing that, we could do that. I mean, I've never read Philip K. Dick, but I love a lot of the stories or the ideas that are presented in TV and media that are based on his world. So I would be interested.
I mean, he seems really interesting. His stories are great. I actually today I did download a couple of his books to read.
Ooh.
From the library. I downloaded Valis and Scanner Darkly. A Scanner Darkly is what the other one.
When you look up Philip K. Dick, what comes up for movies, like books aren't even the first thing that come up, but it's all movies. Like we just talked about Minority Report, Scanner Darkly. This guy is like,
yeah,
he's
like a Roald Dahl, but for science fiction. I feel like he's who's Ender's Game? What's his name?
Oh,
it's what that Mormon wants to be.
Orson Scott
Card. Exactly.
Yeah.
Should we talk about this movie? Should we get into it? Should we just dive in?
We should probably talk about it.
Okay. In the year 2084, Douglas Quaid finds himself bored and unsatisfied with his lot in life and wanting more. After obsessing over Mars, which was colonized and overseen by tyrant Velos Cohagen, Quaid decides to go to a company called Recall, who specializes in implanting false memories to make you think you went on adventures you never actually did. After completing the intake process, Quaid undergoes the procedure, which is cut short when he lashes out, claiming to actually be a secret agent. Recall erases all record of his arrival and dumps him in a cab that takes him home. Unfortunately, his work partner is waiting for him with a gun and a bunch of goons. Confused, Quaid manages to fight them off and seek comfort from his wife, Lori, who also tries to kill him, revealing his current life was fabricated and his real memory was erased. He manages to escape, but is pursued by Richter, Lori's husband, and Cohagen's secret agents.
Quaid receives a suitcase from a mysterious man, which contains secret agent gadgets and a video message from himself that claims his real identity is Hauser, and his memory was erased by Cohagen to keep a big secret. The recording tells him to go to Mars, which he does, where he eventually meets up with his accomplice Melina. She takes him to the resistance leader Kuato so he can deliver the information, potentially leaving the entire red light district to suffocate. But, turns out it was a trap to crush the resistance because Hauser was actually a double agent. Whoa! Cohagen tries to restore Hausen's memories, but Quaid fights back, refusing to become Hausen once again, and goes to activate the secret machine that would give Mars a breathable atmosphere, essentially ending Cohagen's reign. A fight happens, but Quaid is ultimately successful, and everyone except Cohagen is stoked.
Woo!
Because Cohagen is dead.
He's dead.
Okay, that death scene was gnarly. Like
his
where
head
like
exploding?
suffocating and like the eyes like bugging out
Yeah.
and stuff. I was like, I have to look away. Like I know that this is all like movie magic, like you can obviously tell, but
it's a much more
gnarly.
violent movie. Like, I mean, the scene where he's being chased up the escalator and he just grabs the guy with the backpack in front of him and is just like shield,
That
and then
poor guy.
turns the man's corpse around to block from the guy shooting up at him, uses it again on the way up, and then just throws the corpse to keep moving.
I literally have a note about that guy. I'm just like, that poor fucking guy.
Just
like
some commuter with a backpack ready to go to work or something. It was way more like, and I mean, granted, I'm not necessarily like for cinematic violence, but I was definitely like, ooh, that's a lot. That's more than I thought. Like there was just a lot of it.
Yeah. This felt more like a 90s action movie than like a sci-fi movie, which is weird because again, so for those of you who don't know, O'Donnell, is that his name?
O'Bannon?
Oh, yes.
Dan O'Bannon, yeah.
Dan wrote, so him and his partner decided they were working on this movie in the 70s. They were working on the script and they were like, you know what? This is going to be too much money to produce. Let's work on something else. And then they went and wrote Alien as a like interim, like, oh, well, we'll write this, but we're going to come back to Total Recall, right? And they thought that this was going to be it. This was going to be the movie. But like looking at this aesthetically, it was not serving future to me. Like the wardrobe I felt was just really like straight from the 1990s. And that like really took me out of it. Like there wasn't even as much gadgetry or like, I mean, sure, there's video messaging, which I guess like to us might seem a little bit less remarkable, but like still there was so much about this where it's like, okay, that's a drill car. Like, so what?
So that's also one of my big notes also is just because we look at like exemplary sci-fi, like something like The Fifth Element or what have you, where like every aspect, every element of the environment is well thought out and of its time, whereas this just felt like this is the 90s Period.
Also,
like the TVs in the subway were like big bricky TVs. The cars had like a really shitty faux block structure on them. Like and not to get like whatever, but the fridge in that room had like the Barg's root beer and the Pepsi logo, and it's literally just like the logos from the year 1989, 1990.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah.
And this came out in 1990 when we look at like exemplary sci-fi, right? Like, I mean, like you said, like the Fifth Element and stuff. But even before that, there was Blade Runner in 82, right? Which was also from Philip K. Dick, like from, you know, this whole like universe, right? Or maybe not the same universe, but like the same.
It's Dick Cannon.
The same vibe. Dick Cannon. Thank you.
Dick Cannon.
But like it felt, and that's something that just kept taking me out of it because I was just like,
Same.
This is nothing. Like, okay, cool. Like Mars, we're talking about that, but like you're just telling me about Mars. You're not really like showing me anything. You're not showing me that this is a different time. And half of the dialogue in this movie is talking about Arnold's dick. And like literally every woman that is there is like, women are around for like sex and validation, right? Like even the doctor who like is like, oh, like, you know, how do you want this woman to look, right? When he says he's hetero, she gives a smirk, kind of like, oh, okay, cool, right? And then she's asking him about his ideal woman, which is, for the record, brunette, athletic, sleazy, and demure. Like, okay, like this is, anyways. But like, his fake wife was like, you're the best assignment I've ever had. And then Melina, who supposedly is like with him, is like, you know, what have you been feeding this thing? And like grabs his dick. And he's like, blondes. I screamed. I was like, two things. One, fuck, like because of this movie and what this is, I was like, fuck this. But also I was like, I mean, she's fucking cool. Like, she's like, yeah, whatever. Not jealous at all. Like, you know, like, sure, whatever. Go get off. That's fine. And I like
cool
that, but that's not how it's presented. It's presented to like masculate him. And then like Laurie's actual husband like gets jealous and is like, and it's all because like he's worried about like his dick and how he compares to him. I'm just like,
which to me, I loved every one of those moments because, and here is the thing that makes it work, is how bad of an actor Arnold Schwarzenegger is. Because to me, his bad acting makes this whole movie feel like a joke. Like not in like a, it shouldn't have been made joke, but in like a, oh, this is supposed to be silly. Like our lead is a silly, silly boy. Okay, so everyone's reaction to him is like heightened and big and cartoonish. It's also silly. Oh, this is silly and dumb. And like, how many times does he get hit in the dick? Like, more times than any movie I've ever seen. And there's a scene, I think when he's fighting his wife in their apartment, she kicks him in the dick like 3 times in a row.
She does.
And it's so funny because that to me is almost Airplane-esque, where it's like, we're going to fight and then cock shot, close above the cock, his face, whoa. And then they keep fighting, cock shot, close above the cock, whoa. Like, it's just so overdone that I'm like, oh, they're trying to be funny. Like, this is funny. It's silly. And that's why for me it works, because if Arnold Schwarzenegger was more of a straight man actor in the sense that like he was pretty good at portraying the character, could do accent work, was better at acting, it would read completely differently. But he is a robotic, he's like a Pez dispenser of an actor where his mouth opens and some sweet little one-liners fall out, which I have some, like, see you at the party, Richter. Like little moments that really work well, like, oh, what about your father? Like, there's really good gems that are like, that's quintessential him. But overall, he's like a little plastic static nothing that is simply aesthetic on the outside, and that's it. Like, he's muscly. And
for me, he's the male gaze. Because this is exactly, there's nothing to him and his character, and he doesn't even know anything about him and his character, so men can project themselves onto him. And again, the role of women in this, like, which is, you know, just feeding into that whole male gazy thing, right? But like, I get that it was funny, but to me, I was just like, this is gross. This is gross. I mean, also, Arnold has like said that like lifting weights is the equivalent of like coming.
Yes, which I think is so funny because to me, it's like It is so first thought, like actually no thought. Head empty, wiener full, that's it. I am simply a flesh vessel for sex. Like jockhead vibes. So when he said that, like, I mean, he was probably like 25 or something, but it was when he was like peak young muscle guy.
Right.
Like he said lifting weights is like coming or reaching climax, and sometimes it's better than sex, which like is so funny. It's like so dumb. He's such a dummy, a big dumb dummy is who this man is. Like zero head empty man.
Yeah, and that's really fun for him playing a character whose head is actually empty and they don't know what's there.
Literally.
I do want to talk about when he meets Kuato, though, because I thought that this completely recontextualized him or like what they were trying to do with this character once it's like revealed that he's actually a double agent and he's like actually Howson who's like trying to take down the resistance and do this and do that, right? Kuato tells him we're defined by action, not by memories, because Quaid is like obsessed with like, I think I want these memories back, but like you need to know this and stuff. But to me, that line, and especially like it's like laid on thicker in the next one, where what that does is it just absolves this person that's done like confirmed to do absolutely horrendous things to so many people, and just it's meant to absolve him of guilt because he's not that person anymore, when even if he doesn't remember that, he still caused harm to other people, and just because he doesn't remember doesn't mean that he's absolved or forgiven, or that he like that, you know, the harm that's been done to the people that he's actually caused, that doesn't erase that. And that's a big problem I had with both of these movies is, you know, we talk a lot on this podcast about like accountability and things like that. And for me, I was just like, I hate that.
Oh, because at least for me, and I don't think the language would have been there, but if it was more of a conversation, not about like, we erased your brain, but a conversation about like DID or something, then at least there's a conversation about like mental disorder when it comes to the way the world is perceived and who is perceiving it. Because with DID, it is different perceptions of the world, living different lives, essentially.
Like,
but
which
this
Moon Knight did a really good job of it. And I guess it was, not to go down that rabbit hole, but Oscar Isaac wanted to do, like, it was really important for him to do an accurate job of that because I think his uncle or somebody in his family has DID. Anyways, but yeah, well, so that would have been a way cooler conversation.
Because it's like, it's true lived experiences. And I mean, granted, this is a movie that takes place on Mars about a guy who gets his brain wide. Like, it is also whatever, but I agree with you with the accountability aspect, because in this scenario, in this specific instance, it is just like, it lost me so hard at that moment too, where it's like, he's a double, but it's like, wait, what? I'm just like, okay, at this point, either you're saving these people or not. I don't really care anymore. Do whatever you need to do to finish the movie. Like, it lost me. It 100% lost me towards the end, where I was like, oh, this could have ended like 30 minutes ago.
Well, where it started losing me was when, so Melina works at, she's a sex worker and she works at a club, right? And the only people that are nice and actual people are the mutants and the sex workers. And they shelter Quaid. They like, you know, do what they can to like help out and stuff like that, right? And to the detriment of themselves, right? So we see Melina and Quaid get away in the tunnel, and then Cohagen decides to just shut off the air because, you know, this guy owns all of the air, and that's just something that he can do because he declared martial law. He shuts off the air to essentially the red light district, presumably going to be killing all of these people. And I'm just like, well, that sucks, because before I was like, oh, cool, like, you know, we're seeing that those are the real people, and they're like, let's get this, and then it's like, oh, well, they're all gonna die. And I'm glad that they didn't, because I would have been really fucking mad if all of the sex workers died. But then I was like, oh, okay, this movie's gonna have to do something real good to get me back. And then just after that, it didn't happen.
Yeah. And I think for me going into it, I understood enough about the movie just from here's whatever. In my head, I'm like, this isn't going to be, to me, the only person who like is painted in a good light. Like, the only person who gets something is the one who caused all the damage, which is Schwarzenegger. Like, he is the one who gets his redemption or whatever. It's like, wow, we really did it. We saved it. But it's like, at what cost? Like we were saying before, it's just one of those movies, zero comeuppance, zero accountability. But look, we like did it. We saved it. And it's like, okay. It's a dumb movie.
It absolutely
It's a
is.
dumb, silly little dumb movie. It was so hard for me to be like incredibly critical on some stuff just because I'm like, well, not to be like a complete asshole about it, but like no one's trying. Not okay,
No,
you know what?
absolutely.
Like
Nobody's trying. And
nobody in
like
this is trying to be like just or like whatever. And I'm like, oh, like to me it feels like an intentional like, oh, we're not doing that. Like we're gonna kill the little person. We're gonna hate the women. We're gonna beat them all up, and we're gonna like make sure we show Arnold's wiener and the muscles 27 times.
and that we're racist and that, all this stuff,
Yeah,
right?
we're gonna make sure
Like,
all of that happens. Which crumb movie, but like it felt so intentional. Like we are doing this. Period. And you're like,
yeah, everything felt like a choice, right? And so
yes.
I feel like I was able to be pretty critical of it because, yes, it was silly and dumb and all of these things. But for somebody that has been around pop culture and, pop culture discussions about all this stuff for a long time, especially like in male dominated spaces, where they're like, hell yeah, Total Recall, blah, 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 right? And then like I was like, okay, so cool. I'm actually going to watch this now. Like, let's do this. And then I like watching it. I was just like, oh my God, like, I want to talk about the wife. I want to talk about in both movies the idea, like her whole thing is she's pretending to be his wife so that way he's like comfortable there and like ready to be activated whenever they need him, right? But she's performing wifehood, right? What most people think that a wife should be or how a wife should act and everything, right? Which is jealous, insecure, oblivious, like, not super smart, distracting, sexual, like, and all of that just like made my blood fucking boil. Because like at least in the second one, she's like, she feels more autonomous and everything. But in this one, she is so fucking dependent on him. And this is wifey. This is what a wife looks like and acts like and responds like and how they like a normal wife should be, right?
I mean, Jess, that first scene, that literal first scene where he wakes up from his nightmare, I could not get over how bad, like, I was just like, ew.
Describe it for our listeners.
So he wakes up from this dream where he's like, essentially like fighting with or like kind of in love with having sex. It's like we see little snippets of it, but it's like this brunette. He wakes up. Oh, it was a nightmare, whatever. Like I had the dream, and she's like, "Oh, was she in it?" And he kind of dodges the question, assuming he's had this dream before. So there's an immediate like, "You're dreaming of other women, jealousy." Check box 1, and then he tries to dodge the question, and then she's like, "Was it about me? Were you trying to escape from me? Do you not want to be with me?" And he's like, "No, I want to be with you."
Does it feel like a trap here? Am I trapping you?
Am I trapping you in this relationship? And I forget what he says, but then she like coddles and comforts him like, "Oh no, you sweet baby, you innocent little boy. Like, let me like make you better, and like I'm gonna be your mom."
And then she lays down.
And then instantly switches to like, wait, is that my pussy? Like, oh, I'm like a hot girl now. And you're like, it's like in no time flat. And you're like, wait, what are the levels here? Like, this can't be like an A to B to C, because this is like, she's doing every bit as a bit. It's a bit. Like, it's so out of place and weird. And like, she does that like, "Oh, I'm sexy," and then he's like, "Ooh, let me like maybe like sex maybe," and she's like, "Oh my God, no, stop, get off of me, I don't want to play that game anymore." And he's like, "But I want to play that game." She's like, "Oh no, but I can't, maybe a little, are we gonna fuck?" And you're just like, this is wild. This is absolutely insane. Like, it's so dumb. And it sets the stage for her character. Like you said, she is, and I mean, again, granted, we find out that this is a performance. She is performing feminist and like soft sexuality and like the typical what would be considered good wife situation, like, and especially like her practicing her tennis serve in the fucking foyer or whatever, like, and her wearing that like I mean, which, to be fair, gorgeous look, pink jumper,
very
spandex
90s.
with like gorgeous. But yeah, she's just, we find out she is performing that. But even then, even in the moments like after the fact, she's still like, yeah, she's performing perfect wife for him, but there isn't a disconnect, like you said, in the way that the other one is, where it's like, I'm just like a soft housewife to like get the fuck out of my way. I'm an agent and I do not work for you. Where she, in this one, she's still like, ooh, but I'm still hot. And you're like, yeah, I mean, you're Sharon Stone. Like, you're
Right.
still hot. We know this, but it's not as cut and dry, and for that reason feels less intentional.
Right. And even when they're like going to wipe Melina's mind, right? Like they were talking about the characteristics that they're going to put in her, which were going to be respectful, appreciative, reliant, and like sexy. So like, again, these are the things that this is a male space, right? We don't really see any women having any sort of power in this. Like all of the leaders are men and everything. But again, these are the things that men want from women and what they want them to be. And if they step out of line, then they either end up dead or like, I mean, poor Lori, she died. I mean,
Yeah.
And she was just a pawn by like all of these men in her life, you know, her boss, her husband, like her fake husband, like, ugh. It was messy. I do think in the next one they did Laurie's character a lot better, and we'll talk about that and talk about some of the mask coding for her. Because in the next one, they combined her character with her husband, which I thought was an excellent, excellent choice.
It's a better choice because it does make that line between like the falsehood of the reality of their relationship versus the reality of like, no, she's a boss. Like, I mean, I did write like girl boss energy several times, like big girl boss energy. But it's very clear that like she's like we'll talk about her later. But yes, it's a much better choice, especially for this story. I loved a couple of like the tech stuff. I mean, apart from like there not being a lot of, I guess, realized world building when it came to like sets and design elements and like merge whatever. I did love the nail changing color wand. You tap it to a different color.
That was incredible.
Genius and so fucking cool. And for as annoying as they are, the Johnny Cabs.
Those are great. I was surprised they were in the next one. I loved them. They were so cute.
And I will say, it's a big problem I have with the next one is I feel like it's not fun. Like this one is bad, but it's kind of fun. Like it's silly and it's a romp and it's a cartoon and it's fake. Everything's fake. None of the decisions work or make sense. And you're like, oh yeah, well of course they're gonna make dumb choices.
Benny,
they're dumb,
right? Like Benny's the cab driver.
God.
He's a black cab driver, the only black person in this whole thing.
I forget that he even exists because his character was fucking messy.
His character was basically, I've got 5 kids to feed. The character. That was his whole character. And then we find out that he's a mutant. So it's like, oh, okay, you're on our side. You're trying to remove Cohagen from power. And then he's a double agent and is like, I don't got any kids. But again, he's the only, like, I hated that characterization.
It's just black stereotype shit. Where it's like the one black character is like a struggling father of 5 is how we're supposed to see it, but he's like, actually, it was so grotesquely told. The character's terrible, and it's bad. It's bad because it is just a caricature of blackness. That's all it is. And also just the character was pointless. Did not make sense in the story. Like the whole grinder thing, like not the gay shit, but like when they're in the rock mine and they're about to be crushed by Benny and the grinder, and he's like, I'm gonna get you whatever, and then he just gets like stabbed by the side. And I could have done without all of this. It's like because in my head I'm like, how? Look, let's like rationalize this. When he's taking her down the corridor to go find this secret thing to bring the air back, I just hate that it's like it's behind another rock wall. Where it's like he would have seen it, he would have known it. It's not like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was all silly and bad, but I did have to mention his character, even though he's not super prominent, just because
he's in it.
It was absolutely an atrocious characterization.
Yes, it was. There were many things in this, like, for as much as it's just a whatever movie, when these moments are happening, I'm just like, oh, cool, like, got it.
For me, I never got around those moments, like, because anytime I saw a woman on screen, I was like, okay, this is why they're here, you know? Or Benny was in the other half of the movie, and it was just like, the people that are being persecuted are sex workers and disabled people that are disabled because of Cohagen directly, because he didn't clean out the air vents and like had cheap domes, all this other stuff, right? So like, it's directly his fault that all of these people are suffering, but still those people are like the kindest, and they're the ones that again are like the actual real people that are willing to help and willing to like of course they're going to lead the revolution, of course, you know. But yeah, there was never really a moment where I got to just like enjoy the movie, because in every scene there was just something that was like so fucked up, or just like really rubbed me the wrong way, or like, you know, I just, this movie was rough.
I mean, I will say a lot of that stuff, like some of the kitschy lines 100% throwaway I enjoy, but for me it wasn't like oh, I can just look past these. It was more of a like, oh, I'm still watching this. Like, I'm not like absorbing the movie, I mean, like, this is great. I'm really kind of just like, oh, fuck. Like, kind of just like tuned out. Like, I'm watching it and I'm observing it, but I'm just like, to me, it's almost like a where do you start? So I'm like, it was hard to stay engaged with it because of all of those things. So there were these moments where I do disengage and I'm just like watching it as what it is. Because it's
hard to think about because it's just so dumb.
It's and that's the thing. Ultimately, Total Recall is a dumb and bad movie. Just at like base level, it's silly, it's nonsense. Some good performances, some bad performances. As a story, a big fucking mess. Like,
but like the idea of recall and like that is so cool to me. Like, okay, so recall is a place where you go if you don't have the money to actually go on these life-changing vacations and stuff that you always wanted to do, right? You just pay this company to implant the memory in your head with every detail, and they charge you for the amount of days, they charge you for the destination, they charge you, they give you like an alternate identity. You could be an adventurer, a secret agent, like all this. You can have a partner, you can have a sexy partner, you could have aliens, like, so it's like, it's essentially like you curate the experience that you want, and then that happens, which I'm obsessed with. I'm so obsessed with that idea.
It's a cool idea. As it was unfolding, I was like, this is cool. And I mean, one of those moments too when he's like sitting in the chair, Arnold is, and it's like, you could be this person or this person. The boyish little man that he is was like, secret agent.
Yes.
I want to be a secret agent. And he's like, no, but there's other secret agent. Me. I'm big
me.
Secret agent. It was so funny. Like a little baby boy. No, secret. I mean, I'm a secret agent. I want to be a pirate. I want to be the pirate. That was the whole vibe.
And the texts were all like, you know, don't worry, we hardly ever fuck up. Like, I was like, I was obsessed with the workers there. I was like, this is great. They know exactly what they're doing. They know their role. I was obsessed with them.
Same. One of the biggest moments that I screamed out loud for, similarly to our last episode with the liar pants on fire, when they're realizing that Quaid is gaining his memories of this Hauser fella. I forget which character says it specifically, but he says, oh no, he's having a total recall. Scream. Scream. It's like, oh, he's having a total recall. Dead.
Incredible.
Initially dead. I'm like,
incredible.
Done. Signed, seal, delivered. That is so. It's again dumb. Like, it's dumb, but like dumb in that moment. It's like, yeah, they said it, and it was dumb, and I love that.
So we play a game in our house when they say the name of the movie, then you say, yeah, and then like you get down with the signal, or like whatever song is appropriate for these credits. You're going to say that as soon as they say the movie, and sometimes it's within 10 seconds of the movie, and it's very fun. Yeah,
this was like 40 minutes. It was during the big chase scene. I think it's like right when he gets into the Johnny car after the Hilton, where he has the towel on his head and he like is seen, so he throws the towel off and then he gets in the car, and then it's a Johnny car. He rips the Johnny out and goes whatever. I think it was like right around there when like the main baddie and his henchmen are then in the other car and they're getting the call from the bot. if sometime in there, I don't remember specifically what, but it's like he's having a total recall. Dead. So fun. It's peak like bad movie. One of those
Incredible.
things. Like it has to be there. There has to be it has to. And so I'm happy they did it because it was very reassuring for me.
It did need to be there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is just kind of a like I feel like this movie is the perfect movie to have that there.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like I was saying, similar to Firestarter, where it's like, oh, this shit sucks. But then suddenly there is a little bit of like a liar. And since we recorded that, I can't stop thinking about it, Jess. I'm literally, liar, pants on fire is so funny. It's so funny and bad. And I am, just, because if you're going to go down in flames. Like, make it silly and gay. Just do it. And to me, he's having a total recall. Like, it is so, it's like camp. It's so, it's good. It's nourishing. I feel like it's really nourishing in a bad way. It's like eating Velveeta cheese, where you're like, this is yummy. I'm going to feel bad later, but this is yummy. That's all it is. It's Velveeta cheese.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. When he pulled out that tracker from his brain, I screamed because that thing was so big. That was a ping pong ball that he pulled out of his goddamn brain.
It really was. Although I will say, I don't know how much of these elements was in the short story by Philip K. Dick, and how much of that short story specifically influenced The Matrix. But at least these two elements, the red pill to wake up, to come out of this faux reality. Very clearly a red pill. I was like, oh, okay. Which again is also like the Alice in Wonderland aspect of the blue and the red, whatever. Like there's these elements too, but I feel like this is more specific to this. And then also that brain thing felt very a la the belly button worm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like this grotesque extraction of a tracker. It was gross. Okay. Can I just say, the scene when he's dressed up as that woman and she's trying to go through security.
The 2 weeks?
Oh my God. So cool. It was so, and she's like, and like freaking out, like whatever. And then backs up, and then you just see her like ear pop out, and then like, and then the way it's like opens horizontally into these.
Yeah.
It was just so cool.
Okay, that tech was cool, and so was the mirror wristband, where it's like it creates like a double of you. So,
oh yeah.
So that was also cool. I feel like there were a couple. Now that we're talking about, there were a couple of things that were like pretty cool, but but it was in 1990.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that scene was great. Like, and it's so funny because like people have sent me that GIF of 2 weeks before, and I was like, okay, like I don't like, and now I know. So now the more that you know, or the more you know,
the more you know.
I fucked even that up.
But I also, I will say I do like, and I don't think this was necessarily intentional. I don't know if it was a bit, but there was that moment when he's like, "Oh, get him or her, like get her," like they know it's him, but because he's presenting female, he does say, "Go get her," and I was like, interesting.
It did feel like Hausen. Anyways, so like Quaid and Hausen are not the same person, and when it was like people were referring to Hausen, like it did feel kind of like a dead name because he's like this means nothing to me. This isn't who I am. Like this. Yeah. So it's like, but I'm not going to give the movie any of that credit.
I do not think any of that is like a part of the text or even subtext. I don't think it has anything to do with this. So agreed.
But I did like that Hausen, even when he's addressing himself, he like via the video was talking, saying, "Hey Quaid, it's me, Hausen." So like there is this like separation of, personalities. But I do think that if we were having a DID conversation, that would be
I would
way
be obsessed with
cooler.
that as like a retelling of this story to some like
Yeah.
it would be more interesting, and I feel like it would be a better story. And I mean, unfortunately, in this next one, not a lot. I mean, some changes, but like, I don't know.
I did like this next one better.
Did you?
I did.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's do it.
At the end of the 21st century, most of Earth is left uninhabitable due to chemical warfare. The only habitable areas are the United Federation of Britain and the colony, aka Australia. Many people travel through the Earth's core via big tube called the Fall to work in Britain, Douglas Quaid being one of them. Quaid finds himself unsatisfied with his lot in life and wanting more. After obsessing over the idea, Quaid decides to go to a company called Recall, who specialize in implanting false memories to make you think you went on adventures that you never actually did. After completing the intake process, Quaid undergoes the procedure, which is cut short when the employees realize Quaid is actually a secret agent. Suddenly, a group of soldiers storm Recall, killing all its employees, but Quaid manages to escape thanks to his reactivating memories. Confused, Quaid goes back home to seek comfort from his wife Lori, an off-duty cop, who also tries to kill him, revealing his current life was fabricated and his real memory was erased. He manages to escape, but is relentlessly pursued by her.
Quaid receives a phone call from a mysterious man which leads him to a safety deposit box containing an address and video message from himself. He heads to the address, which is actually Hauser's apartment, and is saved from Lori by Hauser's girlfriend Melina along the way. There he unlocks another message from himself that claims his real identity is Hauser, and his memory was erased by Cohagen to keep his war plans against the colony secret. Melina takes him to the resistance leader Matthias so he can deliver the information, but turns out it was a trap to crush the resistance because Hauser was actually a double agent. Cohagen tries to restore Hauser's memories, but Quaid fights back, refusing to become Hauser again, and goes to the Fall to stop the invasion of the colony. A fight happens, but Quaid is ultimately successful. The Fall is destroyed, the colony has its independence, and everyone is stoked.
Okay. Disclaimer. We thought it was Hausen, but it's actually Hauser.
Hauser.
What a Hauser.
Hauser.
Whoops. What good research I did.
Look at us.
What good research. What
we
good
watched
research
it.
and good notes.
We did it. We did this.
Okay, but like fuck all the names in this movie.
Yeah, for real. Big question for me for this remake. Where the fuck was Mars?
I was so mad.
Excuse me? I was like, oh, certainly they're going to talk about getting to Mars. I was like, this Fall thing I think is really interesting. I'm like, maybe because there's the fight that's breaking out on Earth, maybe it's like, oh, then there is a colony on Mars and there's an escaping to it. No. Nope. Nope. We never get there.
I was like, okay, cool. We're establishing Earth first, and then we're going to go to Mars, right? And it sounded in the first one, they had achieved space travel within the solar system where they're talking about like, oh, let's go to Saturn instead, or let's do this, right? Where it's like, no, we poisoned the Earth. We never found a way off of it. So now there's only 2 inhabitable spots. One called the Colony, which is Australia, which was already a colony of Great
It's
Britain.
a penal colony.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now it's even more, and now it's just actually our slaves. So we're good. We're good. Yeah.
I immediately know for me, for that. Like, okay, so my big thing for this, I feel like it took, like, I want to read the short story now, but I feel like it was too serious. Like, everything that was silly and fun, they paid homage to, but then did the opposite. Like, that lady going through security, right? You see her. It's another actor who's dressed just like that character. And then we just, like, move past her, and it's somebody else, like this boring man. And that whole scene just, like, it wasn't silly or weird or grotesque. It was just, like, hologram and, like, oh, no, get him. Which is fine. But I feel like this movie just... I felt like I was watching Transformers.
Okay, that's fair. And I will say when I thought it was a better movie is I think a lot of the plot made a lot more sense. And
I agree with that
I also
100%.
feel like So the story beats felt more fluid.
Yes.
There wasn't like, we didn't have an overly racist character. We had women that, like, you know, were capable, but not like just like sex objects, right? Like, even though there wasn't as much of them or like a character to them. But also, the big thing for me is it felt more sci-fi for a place that, considering the last one we had Mars and this one we just have a destroyed Earth, right? But it still felt more sci-fi. The tech in this movie is so fucking
way
cool.
cooler.
Okay,
Yeah.
you have the lasso gun thing, the
Hand
phone in the
phone?
palms. You have the cars where you like get in the door and then it pulls you in, and you could go on top
Up.
or underneath the roads. The building infrastructures where like they're like connected. Like, I was fucking the musical lock, the like message responding to questions. Like, this felt like a sci-fi thing, and I loved that.
Yes. So it felt way more like Minority Report to me, where it's like,
I've never seen it, so
it's been a long time since I've seen it. It is very good. From what I remember, it's a very good movie. But where it is like the integrated sci-fi elements, the futuristic elements is integrated well. Like, there are still remnants of like an old world or like a present world that we currently inhabit. Obviously, because not everything's going to change at the same speed. We'll see like an old building that was built in like 1993, but you'll have like a levitating car pull into the driveway. So there's like the dichotomy of like old world, new tech. And I feel like this movie does a pretty good job with that, especially like when he's in these apartments. Some of the design elements are like, yeah, this looks like a modern home with a couple embellishments. Like, again, when he's playing that piano, like, what a cool element to have that key, literal key, and then, oh no, it's not playing. Pop, play it again. That's the unlock. Hey, King, let me tell you about what's going on. And you're like, great.
The fashion even felt like, you know, like it didn't feel like too removed, but it did feel futuristic. The whole fall thing is really cool, where you just go through the center of the earth. It takes 17 minutes and then you're on the other side. Like, that to me, again, so fucking cool.
Yeah, I loved it. Like, I just because to me, them introducing that as an element of like Earth tech, I was like, this is so cool. I bet when they go to Mars, it's going to be insane. Like, if this is what we're seeing here, like they're introducing these elements of like anti-gravity core. We have our opposing polarities of the Earth and like them going through the core and the weightlessness. I can't wait till they get to Mars. When he escapes to Mars and they follow him, it's going to be so sick. Never came. So
you didn't even dream about Mars. I was like, okay, when is Mars going to come in?
They didn't even say the word. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
This movie would have been so much sicker if Mars was around.
Because to me, obviously, like, with Kate Beckinsale's character, Agent Laurie as inhabiting both roles from the first one, both posing as his wife, but is also like the FBI agent. She's the one running this campaign. This is her job. I think that was genius. I think it raises the stakes so much higher because it also, I mean, it gives autonomy to the character. Like, she's not just a girl or a wife or like somebody's. She is her own. And she's like, I was playing coy, but it's like, no, queen, this is I trapped you. Like, I was watching you and I've trapped you and it's my job. This is my thing. I built this. And you're like, that's great. It gives a lot more flavor to the movie. It makes her character a little bit more diabolical because there are these moments where, like, when they're in that like standoff and his friend is like, hey, wake up. Like, you had a freak out. We're all here. And he's like, why is she here? And she's outside, like, performing it up, like with like a coat. She's like cold. She's like,
it was so good,
baby. I just, and whatever. It's like, fuck her. And it's like, yeah, because she's in the waiting room. Like, when you wake up, she's there. Like, we're all here waiting for you. And then as soon as he shoots the friend, character dropped, coat
cardigan
off, gun out,
off.
Like running, and you're just like, oh, she's scary. She's a bad guy.
So
she's a good bad guy. Yeah.
And like a lot of it too, she's so aggro, and I feel like a lot of it is because she has to prove her her worth as a woman in this space, because like there's really only two women. There is Melina and there is Lori, and that is it in this movie. And she's surrounded by male cops and all of that, right? So like being in that male dominated space, right, where that is about control, that is about strength, that is about like aggression and like all of this, right? So she's performing that, right? And when she finds out that it's Hauser, she's like, fuck this. Like before she was like, oh, I'm gonna get him, nobody gets away from me. And then she finds out it's him, who is like the top secret agent for Cohagen and stuff. She's like, fuck this, I don't care what they said, we're gonna kill him, he is going to fucking die. Because if she gets the top dog, then she'll be great, then nobody can ever question her place in this world, nobody can ever question her worth or anything, right? And I just thought that she was so good and so fucking vicious. Like the lines that she uses, the first line she uses against Hauser, against Quaid, is, deep down, do you really think somebody like me would live in this shithole with you? Like something to that effect, right? And I was like, oh my God. She's like, I'm worth way more than you, I'm better than you, don't you ever think for a second that I'm not.
Yeah.
And then when Melina's there, right, they're like gun fighting, right? And she goes again for like the low blow, right, where she's like, I hope she doesn't mind where those lips have been. And then Melina's like, I'm gonna end this bitch. Like, and I was like, this.
Yes, that
this?
I didn't. So
I didn't like it, but I think it made sense for for Laurie's character being in a very male dominated space, as somebody that's been in a space with like, that is something that this is that kind of like alpha talk that she would pick up if she was trying to be
she's performing patriarchal intimidation. Like,
yes,
100%. That's what we're seeing. To me, when that moment happened and like Jessica Biel was just like, oh, I'm gonna show her, I'm just like, it's just one of those things from like, who cares? Like, where his lips have been, yeah, no shit, they've had sex with other people. Like, what's not like just go. Like, you're gonna almost die because she said she sucked his dick once. Like, okay, like what? Like, get in the elevator, go away. Like, they're coming. She's blocked by literal robot cops who can't die. Get in the elevator. Like, what are you doing?
I feel like Melina in the first one wouldn't have cared. She was a sex worker. She's like, yeah, whatever. I loved how nonchalant she was about that, right? I was like, great, this is wonderful, I love this characterization. But in this one, Melina doesn't have a lot. She saves him, like, you know, during the big chase, the chase scene, and he gets in the car. But like, other than that, there's fucking nothing to her, and she's so bland and so boring.
She's like a bland semi-love interest that like is like, we have history, right? And you're also, like, wait, okay, like.
She 100% believes right away. She's like, oh, your memories were erased. Got you. I'm cool. We got this, right? And when it's revealed that he's a double agent and like Matthias dies and then the entire resistance is like destroyed, this thing that she's supposedly been in and working for and everything, right? She never processes that. She never processes the fact that the resistance that she's worked for is all gone, that she has been emotionally manipulated and played by Quaid and Hauser, right? Like, she never processes all that, and the next moment she's just like, hey, we're getting out of here, right? Like, it's like that doesn't even register, that doesn't even click, and I hate that a lot because of so many reasons.
It's just a nothing character.
So many reasons.
Like you said, she's like like the movie just happens kind of around her. And that's it. Like, she's a part of it, sure, but she seems almost unfazed by the plot of the film. And it's like, Queen, you're seeing a lot of stuff happen, and you're like in the middle of it. I feel like they didn't know what to do with her, especially if they were going to take out a lot of the sex work stuff, and then whittle it down to just the one moment in the beginning with the 3 tits. Which,
right? Okay,
cool, but like that was also one of my things where like she was an icon. This character was an icon in the first one. She had several scenes. She stood up to bullies even if it cost her life. She didn't give a shit. She was sick. And in this one, it's like he walks by and she's like, here are my tits. He's like, those are your tits. She's like, and he's like, and I gotta go. She's like, great. And you're like, oh, that's it?
Mm-hmm.
What? And so because they've desexed the movie, Melinda doesn't make sense in the world at all. She doesn't exist in this world, which is why this Melinda does feel like out of place. Melina, sorry. She should not be in the movie because they extracted her plot, her point, her entire like character. They've stripped, but then they're like, well, she's one of the leads, you got to throw her in. And it's just this bland, like, whatever character where you're like, wait, why are you here? Who are you in this?
Yeah, she felt like nothing. Like she did not need to be here. And that was one of the things that I didn't like. Again, there's things about the first one. I liked that it was fun. I liked that it was silly. I loved the community, like around like the sex workers and the psychics and all of that. I loved that, and I thought that was special. And also the scenes where like they ripped off arms and stuff were like we didn't even talk about that, but those were wild. And in this one, like, and that one, I like hated the tech. I hated, like, I could never like believe that this was a sci-fi movie. And then in this one, I'm like, oh, this is 100% a sci-fi movie. Why is this Total Recall?
Literally.
But
and to
like,
me, there's a
version. Go ahead.
Oh no, you go.
But the story beats made so much more sense. Where the first one felt, we didn't really talk about it, but it felt very disjointed from getting to from one scene to the other. Like it, not even in necessarily like a comical thing, but in like like just bad writing. Whereas in this one, it felt very fluid and very seamless. It's like, okay, so this goes here, and then we go here because of this, and then okay, like it was better constructed, but that doesn't necessarily make it a better story,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, granted, I was going to say, I feel like there is some version of the story as it pertains to Total Recall, a retelling of the short story by Philip K. Dick, where if you blended these two movies together, there is like an incredible...
Iconic.
Like, bring the fun, silliness, and like camp of the first one to this new one, and bing, bang, boom, you got it.
Don't you know that we are not allowed to do that after 2010? Like, that just fun is like out the window.
Over.
It's not allowed.
Yeah, this movie was just like, this movie's not fun, and I wanted it to be fun. Like, Total Recall's fun, if not incredibly problematic and messy and bad, exclamation point, it's fun. And this movie is just not fun. It's just the most bland, say nothing film. Like, every double agent turn, obviously it's like we know what's going to happen because it's Total Recall. They didn't really stray from that very much, but it was a nothing film for me.
Yeah, it really was.
It's so boring. I just wish that it was cooler.
I want this, like you said, I think you said it perfectly, this movie and the first movie to combine. I want that, and it would be great. Both of them would be great. I would like it so much better. We can have fun sci-fi, everybody. Fun sci-fi is really cool too.
Literally. And like there was so much like terror in these like cop robots. I'm like, yeah, do more with that. Like, make that a little bit scarier.
They didn't
like
even do anything with those. Like there's these the factory that Quaid works at is like building robots, right? And I was like, that's cool. So he's not just doing construction, he's working on these things that are then so the colony is ultimately working on these robots that are going to go and decimate all of them because the United Federation of Britain or whatever is running out of space for people to live, so they want to take over the colony and have a robot slave army, right? So like that's the big secret. But like to have the colony make the robots that Britain is then going to use to destroy them, like that's cool. And let's do more with that. Let's do more with the resistance is living in the uninhabitable zones, so that way they're not like that was also cool. I thought that was neat, right? Like, but again, like we're not getting that because we're so hung up on Hauser. Like Hauser was just kind of boring. Like I didn't need him. If this is the story we're gonna tell, we don't necessarily have to stick with him and Melina and Lori and that like weird awkward love triangle, right? Like I don't need that. Like let's tell a fucking
let's do something
sci-fi
else.
story.
Literally go to Mars. Like, why didn't you go to Mars? I'm not trying to be like stuck on this, but like go to Mars. Why didn't we go?
It's so cool.
It's in the story. Half of the film is on Mars. Why try to like shit out the rest of this story, half of this film on Earth, when it's so much more compelling? The stakes are so much higher. Go to Mars. Go to Mars. Just go to Mars. You could have done it. I just hate that it feels like, well, we're different than the first one and here's why. And it's like everything that they changed about it is like the only things that worked in the first one were the things that they changed and left out of this.
I disagree with some of that because Laurie worked a lot better.
Oh, that, yes.
And
agreed with that.
So
yeah.
apart from Laurie and the aesthetic and some of the tech stuff, like I do agree that there's certain aspects that they just changed that was like, but should you have changed it? Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie did win an award.
Ew.
Do you want to hear what award? From the Alliance of Women Film Journalists, it was the winner for the EDA Special Mention, which is a sequel or a remake that should not have been made. It won. Congrats.
That's so
It won a
special.
BMI Music Award for somebody.
Okay.
It won. It was nominated for trailer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who wrote this?
Kate Beckinsale was nominated for Worst British Actress. Aww. Which I would argue that because I feel like Kate Beckinsale was the best part of the movie.
Okay, I understand. I
Who wrote
understand this now. I mean, I guess I understand because these movies are... So, the person that directed this was the writer for all the Underworld stuff.
Kate Beckinsale. That makes sense.
He wrote the original Underworld, and then he was a producer on the other ones. Let's see, producing credits.
Do you know?
Yeah. He wrote all of the Underworlds. Sorry. Yeah.
Sick. Well, also, do you know who one of the other writers on this was? What they wrote?
Who?
After writing this, they wrote immediately the Point Break remake.
Oh my god, this makes so much fucking sense.
Unfortunately, that is true.
Oh my
rough and tumble out here
God.
In the world. I will say, I wonder at what point they cut the Mars stuff because it's really like bumming me out. At what point were they like scrap Mars?
Mars will never not be cool. Space will never not be cool.
Literally, it's sci-fi. Space will never not be cool.
We are too... this is why, sci-fi is my thing, and that's where, like, I exist, because we all know that the Earth is dying and we're poisoning it and all of these things. I don't want to be on Earth in the future because, like, look at here. It's all destroyed and, everything. I want... space. I want hope. We are out there. We are having new adventures. We are exploring new places and new things. This is what I want. And that's what I wanted of sci-fi. I want newness.
I want Mars. I just want Mars. Let's go to Mars. Like, come on. I want to go.
Come on, loser.
Let's go. Fuck. Whatever. And again, I do want to caveat this whole conversation about like writing and whatever with the understanding that like a lot of shit happens in this process and a lot of people work on it. So
right. I
don't want to like this, that, or the other. Like, these are the reasons that it's wrong. But as a whole, we can collectively have opinions on it. And I wonder, like, I would just like to see the inner working of this movie. Like, I want to see the thought process behind it. You know what I mean? Like, who said
and
no
why?
Mars?
And why?
I just give me a name. Who said no Mars? I want to talk to them. Just one person. Who was the first person to be like, what if we like didn't go to Mars in this movie? Who were they? I'd like to have a brief little chat about fun and about entertainment as a whole with this person, because
you could have done a much better job on this script.
Mars
could have done a much better job on this script.
I would have loved to have written some stupid remake like this. I still want to.
Yeah, I don't have a lot on this movie because it was just like, oh, like my notes were basically the same from the first one. For Quaid especially, Quaid was basically the same. Cohagen was basically the same. Yeah, everything was basically the same. I just liked certain things about it better, and I hated certain things about it. And
Same.
I feel like this was more of a nothing movie.
Yes.
Maybe they're both nothing movies.
They're both kind of nothing movies. A little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I do want to leave it on a couple notes. One note from the first one that I forgot to mention. One of my favorite moments when he's at the Hilton, he looks out the window, he's getting the call from his former colleague who he does not know. He says, I'm going to leave this briefcase here. You need to come get it.
Yes.
Never hear from me again. As he's going to get it, some passerby lady grabs it and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? This is mine. She's like, no, it's mine. And he's like, give me the fucking box. And she's like, you can't tell me it's not mine. Amazing. Genius.
That was in the first one.
That was in the first one. It was just like a perfect little moment where it's like, why that didn't need to be there. Like there shouldn't, like realistically, nothing comes of that. But it was really just a nice embellishment of like somebody sees it, they're like, oh, I'm just gonna take this. Amazing. I loved it. And this one, when he's taking the phone out of his hand, and he's like sliding out like the cables from his wrist with like all the buttons. So cool. And he gives it to that kid. But also I do want to point out like how cool it is putting your hand to any pane of glass, and then seeing from the phone like the video and stuff.
So cool.
It's cool tech. It's great. Hand phone, genius. So into it.
Okay, I did have a question about this movie.
Yeah.
How is it possible for them to jump out of the tube when they're going literally so fast and to be like, okay, and live? Like, because they're going through the center of the earth in approximately 17 minutes. So that is going so fast.
It makes no sense. Like, oh, our escape is to like fall out of the fastest moving object in the Earth's core, and we'll be fine. I don't think so. Go to Mars. Just go to Mars. It's so much smarter to go to Mars than to jump out in the Earth's core. You fools.
Mars. So we have made it back from the future. We made it back from Mars and not Mars.
Wait, Jess, I'm having a hard time remembering something. What did we just watch? And I can't like pull it from the back of my brain to the front. I can't like.
Are you able to like
I can't completely retain.
Revive?
Yeah, I can't bring back really. I can't fully bring it back.
You can't. It's not like a boomerang effect.
No. It's like a recall. It's recall. Total recall.
I totally recall.
I mean, I totally we just recalled. We totally recalled.
Oh my god! I want the
Total
Elle
Recall
Woods
live.
version. The Elle Woods version of Total Recall, but it's Totally Recall.
Totally Recall. And she's on Mars, and she's like, "This is an outrage for the Martian people." And you're like, "Yeah, Elle,
You're
get
like, yeah,
them.
absolutely.
Get them,
my god!
Elle."
Okay, that's what I need.
That would be so bad, and I would love every second of it. Oh my god.
It would be better than some of this stuff. Okay, anyways.
Yes, it would.
All right, so 1990, Total Recall. Who was this for?
Honestly, I'm going to say it was for the Johnny and Johnny Cab because they got a bad rap and they were kind of cool and dumb and silly and a really nice little addition to the movie. Johnny Cab, will always remember you. I will remember you. Do, 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 do. That's where I insert pictures of me and all the Johnny Cabs that I hung out with on my trip.
What a cute, like, if there's like driverless cars, like put a Johnny Cab. I would be into it.
Yeah, like turn around and talk to me. I'm like, I'm bored. Let's chat, robot. Who did you think it was for?
I thought it was for Arnold Schwarzenegger's dick.
Ooh, yeah, for his big fat cock.
Mm-hmm.
His big usable wiener that he uses often.
It was the character that was ever present and just always on everybody's mind.
100%.
And sometimes inside them. Anyways,
or at the tip of their fist. He got punched in the balls so much. It's so silly. It like an astonishing amount of times.
There's probably like a count. You could probably look it up online, like how many times. Anyways, did you like it?
It's fine. It's fine. It's like whatever. Like again, there are some moments like the quippy quotes are really fun. Some elements were great. As a whole, it's kind of not good. But it's whatever. So I'm gonna give it a big meh. Did you like it?
I wanted to like it so much because, again, Philip K. Dick, I liked elements of it a lot, but the elements that I liked weren't ever really developed or were just completely overshadowed by other bad things. I feel like there were some fun, silly moments, but and this movie does not at all take itself seriously. Which is great when thinking about the original story and the title. Like, how could that be a serious story?
Yeah.
I wish that it was better written. Like that it had a better flow, but it is a nothing 90s sci-fi action movie.
Agreed.
So, I didn't really like it. I wanted to, especially because Melina's cool and like all her people are cool, but didn't like it. I don't get why y'all like it. I swear, like I've heard so many people reference this movie and be like, oh, blah 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 blah, and like, why do you still talk about this movie? Why?
Yeah, it's big
other
whatever.
than like the 3 boob scene, like,
which again, icon and star.
Yes,
she's amazing, but yeah.
How about the 2012 Total Recall? Was it new, interesting, or the same? Progressive, regressive? How are you feeling about this dang movie?
It was new in the fact that it didn't include Mars. It was interesting in the fact that it didn't include Mars. And it was not the same because it did not include Mars. I think it's incredibly regressive because it didn't include Mars. And I would argue anybody against that. Jess, how did you feel about it?
I mean, it's very hard to follow that up because you are absolutely correct at every point of that response. Because, wait, if I recall, there was no Mars in this one.
You recall correctly. There was 0 Mars.
Like, there
zero
wasn't even mention
of
like, it being a planet and existing, right?
The
0.
Mars erasure in this film, too much.
Too much. Yeah. I thought it was new. I thought the tech was really interesting, really cool. I think I was just also so stoked on the recharacterization of Lori that I was like, oh, this is interesting. I do want to see more of her. I want to see where this goes. And again, like, I just get immersed in the world. The world building for this was really good. And I liked that. But it was not Mars, so it was not the same. And I do think it was more progressive in the fact that it decided not to continue racist stereotypes. But regressive because of the erasure of sex workers and Mars. Thank you.
Yeah. No Mars.
Who was it for?
Not the Martians. I can tell you that right now. What's for them? They're not even in it. Who was this for? You know what? I really don't know who this was for. Like, who is this movie for? It's not for fans of Total Recall. And outside of that, it's not that good of a film. So who is it for? It's a great question. I don't know who this is for. Jess, who is it for? Who do you think it was for?
I think it was for... I think it was just for money, money, money.
Ooh. That's true. It can't
this
be
is
for
definitely
money.
a remake that is like we're going to remake this because we're going to make hella money. Because you know what? People talk about Total Recall and how cool it is. So we're just going to remake it, and it's going to be so cool.
It's going to be sick. Sick as fuck.
Because also in the 2010s, no fun allowed. It has to be dark and serious and brooding. You have to suck any part of fun out of every story that you're going to tell. It's a rule. That's also the year that Dark Knight came out. So, right?
Batman?
Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. Dark Knight Rises came out.
Yes. Okay, cool.
In that movie or in that. So they probably saw, so they saw The Dark Knight and they're like, oh, what if we do this with Total Recall? Because, I mean, they did just take fun Batman movies and made them very dark. So this formula, and everybody loved it. This formula rips. It's going to hit so hard. Let's do it.
They're going to do it. And then everyone's like, wait, what is this? And they're like, wait, what do you mean? We didn't make anything. Shh. Nothing happened. Move past it. Move past it. We're fine.
We're fine. Did you like it?
No. This one's not even like a meh. There are elements that I enjoy, but as a whole, as a film, not really. Did you like it?
I like aspects of it. I think it's a very meh film.
Yeah.
I feel equally about both of these movies, I think.
Yeah. For different reasons. Very different reasons, but they're both pretty equal in their mehness.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. All right, I think we did it.
Wow. We went all the way. Only making one trip to Mars, unfortunately, this time around.
So sad. Well, thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. We love you so much.
We do. And whilst on the topic of loving you so much, please don't forget to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media as well. We love to hear from you, and we love to talk with you, and we love your attention.
We really do. Our artwork and music is by Eric Lefebvre. Our editing is by Danny Barkley. And thank you again for listening. And thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Jess.
And remember, stay cute.
And stay critical.
Bye,
Goodbye.
bye, bye, bye.
For now, we'll see you again soon. This podcast has been brought to you by the NOTstalgia Network.
Visit thenotStalgiaNetwork.com for more.
Avatar: The Last Airbender is more than just a show.
It's a conversation of growth,
of trauma,
of culture,
of intention,
and of change.
The Momos and the Appas is a weekly conversational podcast from the NOTstalgia Network dedicated to discussing the Avatar universe as folklore, episode by episode.
I'm Eric Lefebvre.
I'm Dr. Amber Jones.
And I'm Jessica Tercero. Join us weekly as we dig into all things Avatar and Korra, including Uncle Iroh's hot bod versus his war criminal history,
Avatar Aang's well-meaning cultural revisionism versus Zuko's performance of toxic masculinity,
how ultimately Katara is the savior and the hero of the story.
Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the NOTstalgiaNetwork.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.